How do I attract pollinators to my garden is easily one of the most asked questions on the internet right now. Now, do you have to have an entire field of bright red amaranth? Well, it doesn't hurt, but you don't have to. And today, the 90 degrees and the heat index of 1 million, it's a good time to talk about the strategy around bringing pollinators to your garden. Yes, as we get in closer summer, having flowers, that seems like the obvious answer. But that's only 120 days out of the year. What about the rest of the year? And if we look on the edge of our garden, especially if we leave some of the clover grow and some of the other flowers, leaving a few wildflowers around the border of your garden also helps bring in pollinators. Over this year, we used a strategy of letting some of the winter clover grow in the garden. So that's some understory, but we still have nice beets coming up. Those came up on their own. And we've got some wild black-eyed Susan that came up on its own. And it really is kind of hard to think about a winter strategy when it's getting this warm outside. But you were here with me. We let our purple bed nettle and our henbit, we let that grow. We let the mulch get a little thin and we let those overwinter. And by doing that, we had food for the pollinators over the winter. And don't forget your dandelions. And we also let a couple of our carrots go to seed, which make these wonderful big seed heads, along with our cilantro, which is coriander. And as this finishes up, we'll let that seed just go ahead and scatter out. And by doing that, we're allowing nature to help us feed the pollinators that we want to come into our garden. Another strategy I want to talk about, but first, you know what today is? It's Saturday. You know what that means. We go to you and we celebrate what's going on in your garden. And I need to thank Art. He's the one that gave me these first bananas. This one looks like it's taken off pretty well. He's got tomatoes coming on already. Art, this is fantastic. We look forward to seeing the flowers around your garden and the pollinators you bring in. Now, we're just a little behind on our tomatoes, but they've got some really nice growth on them. And I don't know if you could hear that thunder coming. We've got another thunderstorm on its way. But I think tomorrow, some of these are big enough, we'll go ahead and prune those up and we'll trellis them, and I'll show you how to do that. But let's go ahead and take a look at what you can do in a very small garden. And I know it's ringed with flowers to bring in the pollinators, but this is Walter's garden. This can't be bigger than about an 8x6 area, but his use of cages and trellises and mesh wire, it's going to be completely full of food. Walter uses a combination of containers and in-ground, and he trellises. And this just shows by bringing in some pollinators, you can have a bumper harvest. Art, Walter, I sure appreciate you bringing us along for the ride. Now I invite you to become a member of this group. There's no obligation, it doesn't cost anything. You just send in a photo now and again, let us celebrate what's going on in your garden. Help us show others exactly what's possible. Help encourage people that might want to learn how to garden. We're just a loose-knit group of people that like to get our hands dirty and grow things that taste good. The other thing you want to keep in mind is what is a pollinator and what stages do they actually go through. Some of the grubs under the ground are good grubs. Some of the worms on some of your plants are good worms. Some are there just to eat your crops. Some produce butterflies that will pollinate the plants you want pollinated. The thing is, if you spray, you're going to kill everything that you want in your garden along with the things you don't want in your garden. And that's what I've been saying for years now. You got to be okay with sharing a little bit. That's why we overplant. That's why I've got our succession corn right here. I've got more turnips and more beets, and we've got beets back here. We've got corn back there. I know I'm going to share a little bit, but I want to bring the pollinators, and I don't want any chemicals. So that's the strategy I use. Abundance allows you to get more food than you can eat. And then the hardest work you ever do is harvest. So let's go on down to Texas. We got Abilene that got 4 inches of rain. And just check out the zinnias. Mary, your garden is looking great. And you brought us into the kitchen. That's got me hungry. Well, I think I'm going to get rained out. Mary, thank you. This looks incredible. Now let's go on down to Mike and Linda's garden in East Texas. It's thriving. They brought in a lot already, but they're in zone 8, so they're a little ahead of us. Right here, we got basil that came up on its own, and it's starting to take off. And we've got tomatoes that we planted not too long ago from seed, and we're trellising those already. And as it continues to warm up, we'll continue to trellis. And look at that, we've got little tomatoes coming on already. We've got watermelons and amaranth coming up in the deep mix mulch sweet potato bed. And that's the other thing. If you want pollinators, there's nothing better than the deep mix mulch. It gives them some habitat to overwinter. That way when spring comes, especially if you've let some of your henbit and purple dead nettle grow and a few dandelions, they're going to have something to eat. Then they're going to want to stick around your garden to help pollinate and make the hardest work you ever do, and that's harvest. You can do this too. And until next time, remember, take care of yourself, take care of your family, and God bless you. Come on, let's plant.
Let's go plant garden.